Hello, and welcome to Navigating Patterns. What I'd like to talk to you about today are three frames. These are the three frames that I like to use to understand the world. And a lot of people have objection over using three. Why do you need three? Why can't you get away with one? And my answer would be contrast. You need contrast to understand the world better. And again, these are my definitions, so you can use them, you can throw them out, or better yet, modify them to fit your needs. So what I see in the world is people are using basically one frame, badly. They're using a frame of you with yourself, except they're not contrasting you with yourself, and they're just sort of engaging as though there's only one frame, me. And what does that lead to? Well, that leads to, as we talked about with the initial model video, that leads to this idea of you versus others, right? And that friction between being politics, that's the only way to resolve problems. Not a good way to think of the world. But I see a lot of people using that just at one frame to understand everything. And so there's no contrast there, right? You only have your perspective looking out. You can't really tell what's going on in any reasonable way because you can't orient yourself. You have no direction except forward, roughly speaking. Maybe there's a little side to side, but you're locked in to this one frame perspective. And it's not even a well-developed frame, right? Because you with yourself should be more about what's going on inside you versus what you're manifesting in the world. You get to some of that sort of with meditation. This is one of the reasons why people can't sit silently. They don't like silence because then they're forced to deal with themselves. And sometimes they see things that are like, whoa, what's that? And rather than deal with that, they run away. And fair enough, maybe you should run away from that. But at some point you have to deal with it because it affects you. Like the things inside you affect how you act. So meditation is one way to sort of help out with that frame, but also having other frames helps because when you have multiple frames, you can do contrasting, you can do comparing, you can do analysis at a level with additional perspective that's not available to you when you only have that one single way to look at the world. So another frame you might consider is you with those things around you, including other humans, right? So the advantage to that is now all of a sudden you can be in relationship to things outside of yourself. And considering what that means, right, now you have the ability to adopt a perspective that isn't just yours. It's something over here or over there or up here, or wherever. And this is the way you can engender empathy. For example, you can't have true empathy. You can sort of have fake empathy with you with yourself, but you can't engender true empathy unless you understand other people as humans, other creatures as creatures, other things as things that are not part of you, that are not subject to your will. So that's an important frame. So it's you with yourself and you with others. And then what else do we need? Well, when you're interfacing with other things outside of yourself and other people, other humans, right, and other creatures, you need a container for all of that. And you might say, well, is that really another perspective? And I think it is. I think you need that third container, right? And that third container is the inclusive frame, right? Where you're including everything in it, right? It gives us a way to participate. It allows us to create things that are bigger than us. So if it's just you and other things, there's only a single relationship there, right? A single sort of linear relationship. But when you expand to an inclusive frame, now you can create new things so that your relationships become a thing unto themselves. And those things can be used to create larger things. And that's why the inclusive frame is so important. So it's you with yourself, you with others, other things, other people, other creatures, and then that higher sort of frame that encompasses all those things in a way that you can have a perspective of them together. And that way you're not just adopting this perspective and that perspective. You can adopt this sort of neutral perspective that allows you to see things all on one plane with additional depth, right? The only way to get that is with the third perspective. You need three things. I went over this in video 2 of my model of where we're at, right? You have to have a triangle that creates a container. That's the minimum number of points to create a container. And it also gives you that additional dimensionality in terms of perspective, right? That's where you start to be able to see things with additional nuance and complexity without being overwhelmed, right? It's very important we don't overwhelm ourselves at the same time. And so using those three frames, I think that gives you contrast. It allows you to understand content with a greater level of detail, and it gives you a sense for where and how to create things, whether it's values or virtues, right? You can have those relationships. You can find shared values with people, right? You can understand what virtues people are embodying. This gives you a way to cooperate and participate with others. It gives you a space to do that. That higher frame is that space to do that. It gives you that sense of common ground or commonality as such. It enables you to do things that you cannot do by yourself and you cannot do simply in relation to others, right? Because there's more there. There's more to the world. There's more expansion allowed in the space just by having that third inclusive perspective. And hopefully you're beginning to see some of the patterns here that are recurring that I'm using in my videos, right? I'm weaving together a bunch of stuff, definitions included, to try and help to understand the models and talk about these difficult issues, things like perspective, understanding there's something outside of yourself that you can engage with, and that engaging with it with the attitude, with the view, with the perspective of that higher third thing, that inclusive frame that sort of encompasses everything, that can help not only you, but can help other people to create things that otherwise wouldn't exist. And co-creation is very, very important concept. And hopefully now you can see sort of where participation and time, energy, and effort all sort of come together, right? And you need these frames, or at least you need some set of frames, but you need at least 3 frames, in my opinion, in order to get to a point where you can understand through comparison and contrasting and relating from a new perspective. You can get that sense for the fact of co-creation, the fact of participation, being able to make something or participate in something greater than yourself, or greater than it would be without you, because it's very much the world we live in. But it also gives you a sense of the fact that your attention matters and how to use your attention to the greatest effect in the world. If you pay attention to bad things, you're only going to see bad things, and bad things are going to happen repeatedly over and over again. If you pay attention to good things are going to happen. And again, I'm not going to define good and bad here today, but you can see the concept, right? Maybe if you pay attention to co-creation, you can co-create better things. You can understand and appreciate the co-creation of things around you. And, that's important, that we understand our role, our part in the intelligibility of the universe that we inhabit. And I hope that you found this useful. I hope that you can use it not only for yourself, but also to communicate with others the importance of these 3 frames: you with yourself, you with others, and that inclusive frame that you're all encompassed within. I want to thank you for your time and attention.